Tighten up.
Yep.
I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body. And that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Hey guys, we're super excited to be here at the LA Fit Expo. It's our third year in a row. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be launching the Tasty Pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs. And we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
If you want to build a massive chest, you have to stop bench pressing right now.
Welcome to Heinz Seniors Coaching Up. Get access to the P3AK High Intensity Training ebook and its exclusive video tutorials. Commit with Heinz's coaching right now and be provided with a year of meal plans, training programs, and more. www.p3akday.com. There is no room for the littles.
RX Television on rxmuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, the Arnold Classic episode of Ask Dave. Hope everyone is well and hope you are all excited for what should be a great Arnold Classic weekend. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, we have a sale for Species-Nutrition.com that we're going to be announcing via email and on our social media, but this is one of the 2 biggest weeks of the year. It is Arnold Classic week. A lot of reasons for optimism and excitement heading into Columbus this weekend.
You know, what's interesting is, a lot of people talk about how many people dropped out of the Arnold lineup. Cedric McMillan being the last person with chronic hiccups, he left. But I got news to you. We did if you watch Heavy Muscle Radio that we recorded, the other day, we did a breakdown of the 9 guys that are in that open men's class. I got news for you. That's going to be one of the best Arnolds of all time. There's some serious talent in that group there, and I don't think it's going to be such an easy decision. I mean, Brandon Curry obviously is the favorite going into it with, Bonac probably a close second, but there's some guys in there that could surprise a lot of people, and I don't think it's going to be a foregone conclusion who wins this thing. And even if Brandon does run away with it, 2nd through 5th place is going to be ultra competitive, and so I'm looking forward to it. I almost wish I was going to this show. Obviously, I can't. I got 3 young kids. I know you're going to be in London at a wedding, but Chris Aceto and John Hanson will be there for us covering it. I'll be covering it from home. I'll be watching the live stream and doing all my commentary like I normally do. So this is one of the most anticipated Arnolds, I think, in that I can remember.
It's crazy because, on the other night with the on Heavy Muscle Radio, I forget who said it. It may have been Lee. It may have been John Romano. The exact quote was, I think it was Chris actually. There's Brandon, and then because he kept mentioning everyone as a dark horse. There's Brandon Curry, and then like 8 dark horses in this show. But it is so. I mean, you remember back to last year, where everybody kind of pinned that as one of the deepest, most talented lineups.
Yeah,
you very well make the argument this is right on par with that.
Whenever you have Olympia guys in there, like top Olympia guys, I mean, and Brandon was Mr. Olympia, so I mean, the excitement level is way higher because a lot of times the Arnold Classic is kind of the second tier, not necessarily second tier guys, but the guys that like placed, 4th down in the Olympia, if you're lucky, and sometimes you don't even get a top 5 from the Olympia there. So this is a good group, like I said, and it doesn't matter that we lost a couple of guys, because we still have a really serious big talent pool here. And to be honest with you, I like when the lineups are really small. Because you know what? Steve Weinberg is going to put them through a million comparisons, and everyone's going to get compared to everyone. No one's getting left out. They're not overlooking anyone because there's only a couple. If you do 3 call-outs with 3 guys, you can do 20 of those if you want to and mix the guys up. So I think we're going to have a good show.
No, and also, one big key element in heading into this weekend. Last year, you were supposed to have William Bonac. Obviously, William Bonac had his travel issues last year, but he will be in Columbus this weekend. So, I mean, you're talking about, 2 guys, first of all, who figured to be at the top, who only 3 years ago, 2019, had one of the most epic Arnold Classic showdowns, Brandon Curry and William Bonac, the year that Brandon Curry went on to win the Mr. Olympia.
And a lot of people felt that Bonac won that Arnold Classic too. So
So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of excitement. So again, we're going to have Chris Aceto, John Hansen on site covering the show. We're going to have the athlete interviews. We're going to have all the wrap-ups, anything and everything in between. And of course, Dave, Lee Priest, John Romano back in studio doing their studio wrap-ups as well. So we're going to have you covered. So if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss anything this week. And of course, this weekend from Columbus, and of course, all of our Arnold Classic coverage. And if you haven't already subscribed to our Instagram, hit the follow button, official_RX Muscles. Go to the questions. The first 2 questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, I eat every day rice, steak, salmon, fruit, and protein shakes. But whenever I eat a McDonald's, like chicken nuggets and fries, I tend to look a lot bigger and my muscles a lot fuller afterwards. Why is this? And should I just add more salt to my meals?
I've done videos on this just recently, actually, about how McDonald's is anabolic. I don't know what the hell's in the food. I'm telling you, I grew too from it. I don't know if it's the fats, if there's hormones in the meats. Obviously, for people who don't eat enough sodium in their diet, there is a lot of salt in the food. I tend to really dehydrate really easily, so I need to eat a lot of salt in my diet. So that obviously helps. I get a really good pump after I eat McDonald's because I think there is a lot of salt. And I salt my foods, but it's like saturated with salt. I don't think that necessarily that's why you feel bigger or more pumped or why you're growing better. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what's in that freaking food, but if you have a good metabolism, you could eat the food and not get fat. Because I know guys that eat the food, they think they're going to grow and they get turned into just fat slobs. But I could eat that food, stay lean, and grow on it. And other people have told me the same thing. So I with guys with fast metabolisms, I send them to McDonald's like once a day sometimes or every other day. And I like to do that for the cheat meal too. It seems to really restore people. Once again, I have no idea what's in that food. Maybe it's not good for you, but look, I ate it for like 15 years straight every day, and I have no blockages in my coronary arteries. So obviously, if you're burning off the food and you're not storing it, you probably don't have anything to worry about.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, cleaning my system this month and just got liver stable and the kidney stuff. How much and best time to take it?
Yeah. I sell 2 products on my DavePalumbo.com website. They're not species nutrition products, but they're products that, like, Bill Llewellyn makes one of them, and there's another company that makes the kidney stuff. And I've just, over the years, what I try to do is a lot of times if I don't make something and I think there's a good product out there, I try to get that product and then help people, put them in touch with it. So a lot of times I carry it on my website. So I buy it wholesale and then I just sell it just so that people have access to it. And the kidney stuff works really well because it reduces inflammation around the kidney tubules, which a lot of times, if those kidney tubules kind of get pinched off, they're not doing their job filtering properly. By releasing the inflammation around those kidney tubules, they seem to be able to do their job better. Creatinine levels go down, and people seem to get good results. For people who have kidney problems, chronic kidney problems, I recommend staying on it all the time. For people who just want to, detox their kidneys once or twice a year, maybe do a bag of it, which is a month's supply every 6 months. That's probably a healthy way to go. As far as the liver stable goes, that's a Bill Llewellyn product, which I found that was probably the best product on the market. A good source of silymarin in there, which is obviously milk thistle, which opens up the bile ducts, allows the crap to come out of the liver, and a lot of times what we do is when we get bodybuilding and we're eating a lot of food and we have a lot of inflammation going on in our body, those bile ducts get pinched off, and then the liver can't release toxins, so it backs up into the liver and swells, and that can cause sclerotic or scar tissue lay down in the liver, and that's when we have problems. So you should definitely, if you're on a cycle, you should definitely be on milk thistle or some form of a product. Like I said, I really like the liver stable product, and that's why I sell it for Bill. Just follow the directions on the bottle and just take that. Like I said, if you're doing cycles and you're eating a ton of food, you probably should just stay on that year round. Whereas the kidney stuff you can do once or twice a year.
Let's go to our Instagram questions again. If you're not already following us, official_RX Muscle. Last place all weekend long for Arnold Classic. We're going to have our videographer Kaz, Lionel Castellano, who helped us in the last 2 Olympics. He's going to be in the pit taking our social media pictures. Of course, we're also going to have Roth Noble, the best pit photographer in the game. He's going to be doing the photos that you're going to see on the rxmuscle.com contest gallery. So if you haven't already subscribed there, just all you have to do is put in your email address. You're going to get full access to the entire contest gallery. And then, of course, any updates subsequent. Let's go to Hardcore Dan. It's a pretty basic question, but if you could go a little bit more into, so he's asking about essential amino acids. Are they good for recovery? If you could explain the science behind what makes them so vital to muscle recovery.
Right. Well, we've talked about this before. We know that leucine, which is one of the branch-chain amino acids, is very important in recovery of muscle. And that's because leucine specifically turns on the protein machinery inside the cell. The switch that we flip, and I try to mechanistically make this like simplistic, like so you can visualize it. The switch that you would turn on that would turn the factory on, so to speak, to start repairing muscle is known as mTOR. So leucine turns on mTOR after intense exercise, and that starts the protein machinery. The problem is if you don't feed in, a full array of amino acids into this factory, it can't make new protein. So just taking leucine or just taking like a branch-chained amino acid, 8 grams or whatever that goes with that, is probably, it'll turn on the protein machinery, but it's really not doing anything for recovery. So what we found is better, and the research has shown, is that a nice at least 30-gram dose of whey isolate. If you're bigger, you might probably want to do 50 grams or 60 grams, but the research has been done with 30 grams of whey isolate post-workout seems to turn on mTOR just as efficiently as just giving it leucine, and you're feeding in the right amino acids, so muscle repair starts up right away. Now, a lot of times I have people combine that with a carbohydrate source, like a high molecular weight carbohydrate, like Carbolyze or something like that, because while you're getting the amino acids into the cells, okay, so they can start building muscle, you might as well reglycogenate the muscles at the same time. If you use a high molecular weight carbohydrate like that, it's not going to delay the absorption of protein at all. It'll still get in at exactly the same time. So post-workout in the off-season, I like people to do whey isolate with a high molecular weight carbohydrate. Sometimes I'll throw some creatine in there for good measure, 5 grams of that. Although, if you've seen the prices of creatine lately, it is through the roof. So high that I'm not even making my Crealyze product until we get cheaper prices. It's like 3 times the price. If I had to raise my retail 3 times what I'm doing right now, people would go crazy. But you're going to see, when you see these prices, you're not going to find creatine anywhere, and you're going to see crazy prices. So we're taking a break for a few months. Hopefully the prices will come down. Now, having said what I just said, if you're in a dieting state where you're only eating a certain amount of protein per day, and because you can't overeat, obviously you're not going to lose body fat, the post-workout shake is not quite as important, because even if it takes your body an hour to digest your meal that you're going to have after the gym, you're still going to get the same protein in the body. It might just take a little longer, and since the priority is not to build muscle, it's just to maintain and repair muscle, you don't need to go crazy with a post-workout shake. So for my clients, I know I don't give them post-workout shakes during a diet situation or contest prep. I do it only in the off season.
Let's go to Mr. Deal X1. Obviously you talked about PCT after cycle ad nauseum, but specifically the best time to start a PCT after a cycle.
Usually what I do is I tell people about a week after your last shot, you can start like HCG. And I like HCG because HCG mimics the pituitary hormone, luteinizing hormone, LH. So basically what it does is it directly stimulates the testicles to produce testosterone. So if you've been on a cycle for 6 months, you're probably not producing any endogenous testosterone. So that turns that process on, meaning that the testicles will enlarge in size and they're going to start producing sperm. But there's still no signal coming from your brain, your pituitary, to keep doing this. So now you have to turn on the pituitary and hypothalamus. The best way to do that would be with Clomid or Nolvadex, which are estrogen receptor blockers. When you block the estrogen receptors in the hypothalamus of your brain, the hypothalamus will then start to produce a hormone known as gonadotrophic releasing hormone. That then in turn stimulates the pituitary in your brain to release luteinizing hormone, which then obviously directly stimulates the testicles. So we turn the testicles on first with HCG. We give Nolvadex at 10 milligrams twice a day, or Clomid at 50 milligrams per day. That turns on the hypothalamus, which then turns on the pituitary, and then you got the whole feedback loop working again. Now, Will it stay on? I don't know. Some people it does, some people it doesn't. Most guys only go off 8 weeks. So if you're doing 2 weeks of HCG, 2 weeks of Clomid, you're really only off for 4 weeks. And usually it's enough to just keep your levels at a normal or low normal amount so that your receptors can recover, your body recovers, and then by the time you're ready to go back on, you really haven't lost anything. You know, you might have deflated a little bit, but that's my PCT, and that's what I recommend. Now, if you were going to stay off for 6 months, 8 months, you know, and you just don't want to go back on, you could take HCG theoretically and Clomid longer than that if you want to. Like the guys who I put on the pregnancy protocol to try to get their girlfriend or wife's pregnant, they're going to take HCG, HMG, and Clomid probably for, you know, for as many months as they got to take it until they get their wives pregnant. So that could go 3, 6, 9, 12 months even. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're kind of artificially keeping your body working to do what it needs to do, and so that you can get the job done. So, but if you're just going off a cycle and then going back on, 8 weeks is usually good.
Let's go to Fit's personal trainer. Is it natural for bodybuilders or really anyone on a high protein diet to have higher creatinine levels when getting blood work done?
Creatinine can definitely be in the higher side. So whenever I competed, my creatinine was, you know, if normal is like up to 1.3 or 1.35, I was always teetering on that little borderline there, probably because I had an enormous amount of muscle mass. So when I broke down a lot of muscle in the gym, that puts a little bit of a strain on the kidneys to have to get rid of all that stuff, plus all the protein I was eating. So you're going to see a higher normal creatinine level. Whereas people like women and people don't have a lot of muscle mass, you'll see lower normal creatinine levels. Now, if you start creeping into the 1.5, 1.6 range, that's too high. That means you've overwhelmed your kidneys and they're not clearing the waste products from the blood efficiently, which you got to address. You know, one of the ways to address it would be to lower your protein intake, okay, and maybe take a few extra days off from the gym per week to let your kidneys kind of catch up. The kidneys will regenerate, and that's why taking like a product like kidney stuff that I sell is a great addition to any kind of kidney detoxification, because number one, it takes the inflammation away from the kidneys. It allows them to filter more efficiently. You reduce your protein load a little bit and your training load, and then the kidneys catch up and they start to regenerate. They do regenerate. They take a little longer than the liver. Liver is a much better organ of regeneration. But after 2, 3, 4 months, the kidneys usually catch up and everything's good, and then you can start upping your protein again. So that's why it's important to get blood work to see what your markers are. A lot of guys after a show might have high creatinine levels, and then kind of we take them, we clean them out, we get them off the drugs, we put them on a slightly lower protein diet, usually using my detox for 3 weeks, and which, by the way, I give out for free. If you want to reach out to me, I can send that to you. And then everything, the problem is when people never take off. They keep eating high protein, they stay on the drugs, they bridge, whatever that means, they never stop taking, and then they just never give the machine a rest, and that's when things break. So, and that could have been part of Boston Lloyd's problem. He never gave his body a break. You got to give your body a break to regenerate, and so anything over like 1.35, I would address seriously. As far as you can catch it early and reverse it. It's when you start getting up to the 2.0 creatinines that there's permanent damage starting to be done.
Go to Gavin Alonso, lighthearted one here. Obviously, we know your wife, Amanda, in her time as an IFBB pro. Does she ever talk smack with you because she has her pro card and you didn't?
All the time. Yeah, all the time. She's always like, well, I'm the pro in this family. I'm like, oh, boy. All right. Yeah. She would have been, if she would have competed, she would have been really good too, especially in women's physique, because that's really the type of, she turned pro in bodybuilding in 2005, the year Phil Heath won the USA, but she really had a women's physique, I think she would have done well, but look, she wanted to have babies and we have kids, and I don't think she would trade it in for anything.
Let's go to, I want to save this one towards the end. Booby Bobby Traplord. Should you worry about blood sugar levels with 2 IUs of HGH while bulking?
I don't know if the right word would be worry. I would check my fasting blood sugars every morning. I tell people all the time, you go to Walmart for $9, you buy a blood sugar monitor, and another $9 you get the test strips that come with it. And you can test your blood sugar every morning. It should be under 90. If If you're creeping up to the 100 mark, you're too high, and that's when you want to address it, maybe with a long-acting insulin. But if your blood sugars are good in good range and you see it, even if you can go to testing once or twice a week and you see your levels are under 90, then don't worry about it. 2 IUs usually doesn't affect people negatively. However, some people have a genetic predisposition for higher blood sugars anyway, and that GH can put more of a strain on the pancreas, and then we can see high blood sugars. So not knowing is stupid. It's you don't have to even go for blood work. You do it in your house. You wake up in the morning, you prick your finger with the thing, and you test your blood sugar. There's no excuse to not know.
Bodybuilding and wrestling. Have you ever felt that after your first 2 to 3 exercises, any body part, to not have any power left to push or pull, but still have a bit of energy to do a few more sets? Is this the time to switch to machines, cables, and focus on more time under tension and squeeze with medium weights?
Yeah, I mean, the first 2 exercises really are your mass builders. So let's say if I was going into the gym and doing chest, okay, I would do incline barbell presses, probably in my heyday, work up to 405 for 6 reps. Then I would go to flat dumbbell presses or something like that, and I would do, 2 or 3 sets maybe there, working up to my heaviest set. I don't know if I did 140s or something like that. And then I'm shot. I could really go home after that, but I might do a set of cable crossovers, or I might do some dumbbell flies. Of course, I'm not going super heavy at this point. I'm using a weight where I can really squeeze the muscle, because it's really more of a shaping exercise anyway. It's not a mass type of movement. To try to do super crazy heavy weight would probably lead me to getting hurt, because at that point your body is like, you're pretty much done. You know what I mean? You're just kind of doing a few extra things and then that's it, get out. Same thing, legs. You go into legs, after you squat 5 or 6 sets or whatever it is, because you got to work up to your heaviest weight, you really probably don't feel like doing very much after that. I would usually push out maybe 2 sets of like leg press or hack squats after that. I'd go to my leg extensions, which, are more of a shaping exercise, and then I do my hamstring curls and I'd leave. That's it. So yes, the first 2 exercises usually are your mass builders.
Another training related question from Daman Jot. I get inflamed after every push day in my shoulders. Is it fine to take ibuprofen? If not, why?
The inflammatory response post-workout, okay, is the signal for your body that your body is sending out to come help rebuild. If you take a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory like aspirin or ibuprofen or anything like that, Aleve, same thing, what you're doing is you're taking away that inflammation and you're taking away that signal for your body to repair itself. So chronic inflammation, which is inflammation you have all the time, is no good. If you hurt yourself and you have chronic inflammation in the joint, yes, you can use ibuprofen. But if you're just sore from a workout, you definitely don't want to do that. You don't want to take away that inflammatory response. Throughout my entire career, I only used Tylenol. Like if I had a headache or if I had like a little ache, I took Tylenol because it's not non-steroidal and it's not a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. It doesn't inhibit inflammation. It's just a pain reliever. So that's okay to use. You don't want to use the stuff that inhibits inflammation.
Just Athletics, best PCT protocol, or at least the guidelines for women.
I always laugh whenever I'm asked this question because, PCT implies that, testosterone production, right, in the body. So if women take a cycle of Anavar or Winstrol, whatever, and then they stop, there's nothing to turn back on because they don't produce that stuff to begin with. So you're not crashing. You're just going back to normal baseline level. Now, women do produce some testosterone via the adrenal glands that produce DHEA or dihydroepiandrosterone. The adrenal glands release that, and that turns into a little bit of testosterone, and that's where they get their muscle building potential from. That doesn't get turned off when you take Anavar or Winstrol or anything like that. So when women are done dieting, or doing their cycle, just stop it. Now the only thing you want to taper off is if a woman is using like clenbuterol or Cytomel for fat burning, you want to taper down on those. But there's no PCT for women because there's nothing to turn back on.
Take one more question. Chris Angeletti. Marcus Rule, 2002 Night of Champions. Would you say that was one of his absolute top looks?
I don't know if it was his best look, but it was a very good look. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he won the show.
Well, his specific question is, his 2002 Night of Champion form, how would that have placed at the 2021 Mr. Olympia if he came in that exact same shape?
He probably would have been top 5. Marcus's problem was that his glutes and hamstrings really never got crazy striated. and he was a little shallow back there. Even though the front was like his front shots were just like mind-boggling, but he would lose a lot of times from behind. So I think he hit just on his sheer size and mass, he probably would be top 5, but I don't necessarily think he would have won.
We always get questions about cherry vanilla isolized, and if there are any plans to bring it back.
Yeah, you know what? The funny thing is, I invented that flavor myself. I had my fruit punch Fiberlize. One day, I took that and I added it to our vanilla isolized. This was in the very, very beginning, and I was like, "Holy mackerel!" The flavor tastes really good, even though I don't really like the fiber mixed with the protein because it gets too thick. I said, this is a really good taste. So I told my flavor guy at the time, who I was using, I said, can you take the flavoring from the fruit punch and mix it with the isolized? And that's how we made cherry vanilla. And I loved the flavor. And it had a real cult following of people who they would only buy cherry vanilla. But I don't think there was enough people buying it that weren't, because we order thousands and thousands of jugs at a time. So you have to be able to sell it. It can't sit, because then if it expires, obviously, then we got to do crazy sales on it and stuff like that. So there's a possibility at some point I might bring it back, but it did have a the people who bought it were the most loyal people. They would buy it religiously. And I knew all the people because they would call me up and say, do you have it? When we stopped making it, they're like, you have any inventory left? I said, well, I have some stuff that's going to be expired like tomorrow. They're like, we'll take it all, and we sent them like cases and cases and stuff. But I liked it. I liked the flavor. But you know what? I'm a peanut butter. I like the vanilla peanut butter. That's my favorite. Actually, the coffee is really good too. So now that we have that, but so what happens is if you have too many choices, people don't know what to buy. So then what happens is that they neglect one flavor, and then that flavor sits.
And speaking of species, again, we're going to have an Arnold Classic weekend sale. So we're going to figure out the final touches and then announce it. If you're not already following us on Instagram, it's at Species Nutrition.
And Lee Priest will probably be an integral part of that too. So check out his Instagram.
Yes. And then, of course, if you're not already subscribed to our email list, that's generally where we launch our first exclusives. So you can go on the website, speciesnutrition.com, scroll down. We have a field there for you to enter your email and be the first to find out for any upcoming sales or deals. Final question, Ryan the Warrior. We've seen Brandon Curry's progress pictures, and we've seen really, Dave, his progression over the course of the last 2 years, subsequent to him winning the Olympia in 2019. The question is, how much size will Curry realistically have to put on to knock out Big Ramy? Seems as if Brandon has everything else on Ramy but the mass.
At some point, I think if Brandon adds too much size, it kind of can ruin his physique a little bit. So I think what he's doing is it the right way, because he's got one of these beautiful looking physiques. You don't want to blow out his waist or anything like that. So his physique looks pretty complete right now, and a lot of people, Lee Priest felt that Brandon should have won the Olympia. So, Ramy is a mass monster. That means that if he comes in 100% and he's shredded to the bone, no one's beating him. It was like back in the Ronnie days. Jay was chasing him, but he couldn't beat Ronnie at his best. Same thing with Dorian. Ramy's in that category. The difference between Ramy and Dorian and Ronnie is that Ramy doesn't have that mindset that these guys have, and he leaves the door open a lot because I don't know if it's just because he can't suffer as much as they do. That's my belief, but that might not be true. Maybe he just can't. I can't believe that someone can't get in the best shape of their life. It's just a matter of how much you're willing to suffer. If Ramy would go all the way and come in ridiculous looking, no one's going to touch him. However, he leaves the door open, and a guy like Brandon with better shape and structure and better poser who comes in on the money, can beat him. So I don't think that Brandon has to do anything different at this point. He needs to keep just showing up. I think it's a very smart move for him to do the Arnold. He can easily win this show. It's a nice paycheck. And Brandon's physique gets better the more he competes. We've seen that happen before. It'll give him a whole year almost to relax, because the Olympia is not to December.
About like 9 months,
yeah. So, I think it's a brilliant move on his part. I think he's going to be able to go home and hang out with his family before he has to go back at the end of the year to Oxygen Gym again. Great move. Don't change anything, Brandon. You're not 25 years old anymore. Just keep showing up the way you are with more detail, better conditioning, good fullness. I think he can win another Olympia. I really do. I think that Ramy, his fate rests in his own hands. I think he got away with murder last year because he really didn't look that good at the prejudging. He tightened up for the night show. If he leaves that door open again, I think Brandon comes in and wins the show this year.
Well, Dave, let me ask you, I mean, just based off what you saw in his last progress picture, one where, again, the buzz was, at this past Olympia, we kept talking about his legs and bringing up his legs. He seemed to have more of that balanced look. He clearly has added more size heading into this Arnold Classic. I mean, you're talking about a 9.5-month window between this Arnold Classic and the Olympia. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of discussion post-Arnold Classic as far as what Brandon looks like and what he's going to, obviously look like. But this is pre-depletion, so you're getting to see some more of that mass in his absolute flesh. What significant additions, if any, if you were advising him, would you make, heading into that 9.5-month window?
First of all, I give Instagram no credibility. Any pictures on there, I like looking at the pictures, but it's like I'm like watching like fantasy, land. I don't believe anything that I see. What Brandon looks like on the Arnold Classic stage will paint the picture of what we're getting to look at. Has he made improvements? Okay, which at his age is very hard to do. So if he has made improvements, that will be really, really special. And if he comes in and dominates and brings the best look of his career, that's going to be great momentum going into the end of the year. It's going to give him a whole nother year. He might even make a few more pounds of improvement. And he obviously is still passionate about what he does. He still loves it. He's enjoying himself. He's injury-free as far as I know. Yeah. And that's the most important thing. He can go another 5 years like the way he's going if he can stay healthy and he can, keep his mind fresh. I think, like I said, I think this guy can win a couple more Olympias. I think that Ramy is not a shoo-in because I don't think Ramy's mindset is as strong as Brandon's at this point. And I think that Ramy might leave the door open. He might get a little lazy. I don't know. I hope not because I'm dying to see a Ramy come in at 100% because I think that will really add a lot of excitement to the bodybuilding world. So, it's good times in bodybuilding. I think we're starting to enter another, renaissance with a lot of great physiques between the Nick Walkers and the Hunter Labradas and the Brett Wilkins and all these up and coming guys, Justin Rodriguez. There's a lot of exciting talent in the IFBB now, and so this is a good time to be a bodybuilding fan.
Well, you're going to see a lot of that exciting talent on display this weekend in Columbus, Ohio, on the Arnold Classic stage. The pay-per-view information we'll share it on our Instagram as well. I know it's all over the Arnold Classic Instagram, and any other key vital updates or things that you need to know that they're sharing, we'll repost it on our feed as well. Hope you enjoy Arnold Classic weekend. John Hansen and Chris Aceto are going to be on hand. You're going to have wall-to-wall coverage of everything going on in Columbus, Ohio. And then, of course, Dave, Lee Priest, and John Romano are going to have you covered with the post-studio shows as well. We're going to have you covered on social media. If you're not already following us on Instagram at @official_RX Muscle. Enjoy Arnold Classic weekend. We'll speak to you next week.